Hi guys. So let's start with variable. Okay. So in variable, look, whenever we configure a script, right? Whenever we write a script, so what we do always let's assume I'll take a small example. Okay. So I'll take X. Okay. So I'll define some value there, right? I will store some value in X and then I will take Y. In same, I will store some values in Y, right? So X is equal to 1, right? So this is your variable, right? Y is equal to 1. Okay. And then let me take this output in Z, right? And I will say X plus Y. So what we are doing here, first of all, so I'll go one by one, right? So in this condition, in this, what we are doing here, we are saying to the Python script, what you have to do, you have to store 1 into X. Now, what X is having right now, that is having 1, right? What we are saying here, Y, you need to contain a value that is 1, same here. And then finally, what we are saying here, we are saying Z, just do one thing, have your value, store some value, and that value will be the answer of X plus Y. So whatever values we have in these X and Y, right? So this Z will store these two things into this one, right? It means what we are doing here, we are doing like we are storing some value, right, into a variable. It means whenever, let's suppose I need some I need to do some task, right? So what I will do there, I will never call these things, right? What I will call these variables. Reason, we know in the last task what we have done, we have stored this value into X, and same here, this value into Y. In future, let's suppose now I will say Y is equal to 2. So it means what we are saying now, just remove the previous one and now you have to store a new value that is 2. It means in future, whenever I will call this Y, the Y will just show me the value 2, right? So this is basic variables, right? And we do have some variable rules here. Okay. These are the variable rules, like what variable we can take, right? What we cannot take, what are the real rules we have. Okay. First of all, what we can use variable starting from a alphabet and a variable can start with underscore. It means like I can put a value like X, I can put Y, I can put ABC, I can put like ABC, right? So these are two different variables. Okay, this is in capital ABC, this is in small ABC, right? These are two different variables. Or I can put like A, B, and C. Again, this one is again a different variable, right? I can do like underscore A, underscore B. So only these values we can put, right? So what once if I'll try to configure like 1A, so that is not possible. That like once I'll try to run any command, any script with this one, with this variable, right? So I'll be having some errors. Okay. So what is the first rule? We can use a variable string starting from alphabet or a underscore containing another alphabets. Okay. So this is the first rule that we can use. It means now we know whenever I need to configure a variable, I need to have a variable, right? So it should be starting from alphabet or and containing like other alphabets, right? Or I can start with this underscore and other words, right? So that was the first rule. Now the second rule, what we cannot use special character and numbers. So we cannot start a variable with a special character, like let's suppose I'll try to configure hash ABC. No, that is not possible. The Python will say, no, I cannot accept these things. I don't understand these things, right? If I'll try to configure one ABC, again, the Python will say, no, I don't understand these things. So you have to start with the alphabet or you have to start with underscore, right? Finally, the third rule, as we have discussed right now, these are case sensitive. Case sensitive, it means if let's suppose we have A, B, C, okay, we are storing 1, okay, and we have A, B, C, now we are storing another value that is 2, okay, we do have A, B, and C, this one, we are storing, let's suppose 3 value in this A, B, C, right? A, B, and C, again, these are different value, right? Let's suppose we are storing 4. So all of these are a different value. So what we say here, these are case sensitive, okay, and all of these are different from each other. It means this is containing 1, this is containing 2, this is containing 3, and this is containing 4. So now if I'll say print a value that is having A, B, and C, so this is having the third one, right? So the answer will be like 3. The device will show me a 3 value. So first of all, these are the rules that we have in the variables, right? Now, what in the variable, what we can insert? So that will be, so these are basically some values that we have here, right? So what we can put here, let's suppose I will say X is equal to 1. Okay. I can have like Y is equal to 1.1. Okay. I can put like Z is equal to A, B, C. So what we are doing here, this is your integer. Okay. This one is your float value. Okay. And this is your string. So we have these 3 things, right? First we have integer, the second we have that is float, the third we have that is string. Now the fourth one we can also have, we can do like, let's suppose I'll take A and I will say 2 plus 3j. Now what is this 3j? This is your complex value. Okay, so basically what we are having here, we are having 3 values. We have first constant value, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. It means we have integer. In these constant, we have integer, we can have a float, we can have a string, and we can have a complex value also. So whenever we whenever we input these things, right? So we'll be having these inputs only, right? And we'll be using these things to do some task and do some scripting, right? Now we'll discuss operators. And first of all, okay, basically one more thing here, if I talk about a variable, okay, one more thing we cannot put, like we do have some reserve words, okay, reserved words. So those words also we cannot use as a variable. So let's suppose I was using like A, B, C, I was using C, A, B, right? I was using A, I was using B, C, X, Y, Z, right? So those values we can put, but we do have some reserve words that we cannot use, like we do have if function, right? We do have else, we do have if else, right? We do have del, we do have continue. So like this, we have n numbers of words. These are the reserved words that we cannot use as a variable, right? So whenever we we configure a variable, we write a variable, right? So what we do always, we always take care of this thing that we should not use these reserved words. Okay, fine. Now, the next thing we have is operators. Okay, so we have multiple operators. Okay, so we'll discuss one by one all the operators. Okay, the first one we'll note down here, that is this one. So this indicates basically what it indicates, putting, or we can say a storing a value into a variable. So whenever we use this sign, right? So it means what we are doing here, we are putting something into a variable, we are storing some values in the variable, right? The second one I'll take, so I'll take example also in the script also. Okay, so right now we are just doing the theory part. We can say we do have this sign, right? So this says addition, as we know, This says subtraction. Okay, we do have this also. So this says dividing a value, division we can say, right? We do have this also. So this operator we use to get a reminder. Reminder, it means like, let's suppose we are taking a value of 5. Okay, we are taking 2 here, so this will be like this one, right? And now this is your reminder. So whenever we need a reminder, right? So what we use this value. So whenever I will write a program with this one, and we are having these values, right? So I will, in the answer, in the output, what I will get this answer as a reminder. Okay, we do have this also, like double is equal to, what we say here, this whenever we want to check some values. Okay, so this we use to check some value is equal or not. It means this sign we use to check a value that is equal or not, right? The seventh one is greater than, right? This can be a true, this can be a false, right? We have less than also. We have greater than is equal to, we do have less than is equal to, right? That value is less than is equal to or higher than equal to, right? It means the same value or higher than, the same value or lower than, right? We do have this also. So this is your basically power, we can see, parenthesis, right? So let's suppose we have a value of 2 to the 4, right? I want to get this result. So what I can take here, I have to do like 2 multiply 2 multiply 2 multiply 2, right? So then we get the answer 16. The same we can do in the Python using these values, these strings. Then we have this x. So against the same, a single one. So the single represent your multiplication. Okay, if we have double, so that will be having a power. If we take a single x, that will show you like multiplication. It means 2 to the 2. So this will be 4. And that's it. So these things will be using, these operators will be using in future, right? Now let's write some program with these things. Okay, some basic program. So yesterday, like in the last class, we have done some basics, right? Some basic program of the the statement we have done, right? The conditional script we have done, right? So now we'll do the same thing. Okay, we'll do one by one. So as we have discussed today, like we have x value, we have y value, we have z value, right? So now we'll be using these operators and we'll be doing some tasks. Okay, so let me open the atom. So here we have, okay, so I will just write a small program first of all. So I will say x is equal to, so now we are putting some values, 3 and 2x. I'll say y is equal to 4. We are putting 4 value into y, right? And then we are saying z is equal to, so this will say, let's suppose x plus y. So let me take x plus y. So this operator we're using right now, the addition operator, right? And the operator we're using, that is equal to, right? We are putting some value into a variable, right? Now I will try to run this one. And as we know, to run a Python script, we have to save the file into .py format, right? So just save this file, .py. So now let me open my CMD. Okay, we can directly use this also to run the file. So let me use, okay. So now the name is new.py, new.py. Okay, we have to say what I have to print, because that, like now what we are doing here, we are just putting some value into a variable. We are putting some value into a variable. Now x is having 3, y is having 4, and the z is having the combination of x and y, right? So now what I have to do here, I have to print what I have to print here. I have to print z. That's it. Just save this one and run the same file again. Now look here. what value we are getting here. So we are printing Z, right? So it means the whatever the value Z is storing, right? That I can see here, that is 7. Okay. Now, so this time what we have done, we are using some fixed values, right? We can say we can do one more thing. We can ask the input from the user also. How? I can say here, just remove this value, remove this value. Okay. Now let me say input from the user. There's a function we are using here right now. Input. So let me use some codes. Now enter your first value. Okay. This we are saying, and we have to specify this will be integer or not. So yes, this is an integer, right? And the same I have to use last just to close the brackets, right? So what we are saying here, enter your first number. Okay, that is the input from the user, and that is an integer. Integer, it means like, yes, we are putting a value, right? Same here, put an integer, right? Input I have to put, okay, and then enter your second value to add. So now what we are doing here in X also, we are getting some data from the user. So earlier we were using some we were doing these things using some fixed values, right? But right now what we are doing here, we are taking some inputs from the user using the input function. So these are the functions we have. We'll discuss more into functions later. Okay. So we are getting some input from the user in X, in Y, and then finally whatever values we are getting from the user, we are storing into Z, a combination of those values, right? And then finally we are showing you a new values. Perfect. So let me save this one. Okay. And then I will run the same here. Now once I will run, the device will ask me for two values. That is asking enter your first value. Now you can see that is directly asking me after this one, like without any space. So I'll do one thing. Let me just cancel this one. Okay. Just put here some space, like a good presentation, like, right? A single space, that is fine. Control save. You have to save the file, then you can run again with new changes. Now that is asking me a number. So let me type here 15. Enter your second value to add. So what I want to add, so let me take like 20, right? So now once I will press enter here, the device will show me the print value Z. And now we can see here Python is going one by one, right? So the first of all, it will read this line, then it will read this line, right? It will execute, then it will read this line, will store something, and then finally it will show me the result, right? It means the Python works one by one, right? And then enter. Look here, what value we are getting here? 35. The answer of these values, right? If simply I will do here a change, small change here, and I will save this configuration. Now whatever value we will get from the user, that will do a subtract, right? Run this file. Okay, so let me put 10, let me put 5, and look here what answer we are getting here right now. That is 5. So this was the second operator that we have discussed. Now the third operator, that was a sign of division, right? So let me use a division sign here, and then we'll see like we will get the answer or not. One more thing, whenever we talk about the division, right? So in the division, we always get a reminder. So in the Python, this is a default behavior. Whenever we use a division, right, it will convert these integer values into a float value. I'll show you that. So let's save these things and run this one. Enter your first value. So let me type 10, second pi. Look here, what we are getting here, the answer we are getting in a float value. So whenever we do a division, right, automatically the Python will convert the integer into a float value, right? We can also check like what answer we will get, right? So I can do one thing here. Okay, right now that will not get. Okay, we'll discuss later about that point. Okay, because we have to store some values there. Okay, now this is asking one by one, so we have to input some data, and on the behalf of data, it will show me the values. So right now, as we can see, we are getting some answer in float value, right? Same, let me use some other values. 15, then we are putting 4. Look here, we're getting some float values. So automatically this Python will convert this float value, like the integer, into a float value, right? Now let's suppose I want to get an input from the user in the float. So let me try 1.5. Look here, the device is saying, the Python is saying, I cannot read this one. Reason, we are saying here, the input I will get from the user will be integer, but in this input, what we are putting here, we are putting this float value. So I have to change float. Let me run now, control save. So 10.5, that is accepting, right? Reason, now we are putting a float value, right? Now let me try to put a integer value, 1, that is taking, it will automatically take as like 1.0, 1, and the answer we are getting is 1.0, right? Perfect. So this we use as a division, right? Now let me take a reminder. So I can use this value, okay, this operator. Okay, so let me save the configuration now. So I have saved. Okay, now I will take the first input again from the user, right? So let me take an input. So let me just change it to again integer. Okay, and save this one. So we are taking integer value from both like x and y from the user, right? The user input, enter. The first value is 10, right? The next value is 7. Now the reminder will be here like 3, right? So we should get here answer 3, and we are getting the answer here 3. Perfect. Same, I can use a star here. This is basically for the multiplication, right? So let me run 10 and 2. So that is 20. Perfect. But if I take this as double operators, so this will basically put the value in the power, right? It means the same value now I will put 10 and 2. In the first, I will put 10. In the second, I will put 2. But now the answer will be a different answer. So that is 100. It means this is putting as a power, as I told you, right? So this is basically represent your power. So whatever value you will put in the background in the last, right? So that will be the power of the first value. So we are getting some data from the user. Same here, we are getting some data from the user, and we are storing those value into x and y, and then finally we are calling here, and then print, we are doing a print, just print whatever value we have in the z, just show me out here, right? Perfect. Other things we have, okay, so other we have like less than and greater than. So these things we have to verify. So those are basically, we can say, whenever we run a script, right, and we want to check some some outputs, right, like this value is this like equal or higher, or we can say there is lower than this one, right? So those are basically this one, that is equal to or not, right? These are, we can say, conditional, we can say, right? We are checking operator, we can say. Okay, we do have greater than, we have do a less than, we do have greater than is equal to, less than is equal to, right? So we have these things. So we can use these things once we start the conditional also, right? So once we start the conditional script, right? So that time we'll discuss these things also. Okay. One more thing here. Whenever we write these commands and these scripts, right? So we can do one more thing here. We can verify the input. So that is an integer, right? The Python will say me like, this is your integer value, this is your float value, this is your this value, this is your this value. So I can do like that also. So let me change this complete one. So x is equal to 1. Okay. Y I will take as a float value. I will take, let's suppose y is equal to 1.1. Z I will take as an integer. Okay, so I will say CNC.com. Now what I have to do here, I have to print one thing. What I have to print, the type I have to print, what type that variable is containing, right? And for which, for x, let's suppose. Okay, save this one. Okay, and run this one. So look here, this is your integer value. I can see here this class, this that says like this is your integer value. Fine. Now let me change this is to y. So whenever you need anything, like let's suppose you want to find like the real thing what we have in this variable, right? So you can choose type. So using type we can get the class, or we can say the whatever value we have in the variable. So we can get that output here, right? So now y. So now in the answer I will get the float value. Perfect. We are getting the float value here. Now if I'll change it to z, right, save, and now I will get string. One more thing, We can do one thing here. We can basically, let's suppose in Python, I don't want to run some inputs or some commands, right? Some script. So what I can do here, I can put a comment. This is like, let's suppose I will do some mistake. So this is basically, I will say here, this we are using to get type, save. I will try to run this one, right? We are getting error. Oh, no worries. Now I can put this as command. Let's suppose I don't want to run some specific line, right? So I can put like this hash, right? This hash is your comment, right? It means once we have this one. So once a Python script read this one hash, the device, or we can say the Python, will never run or will never execute this line. It will simply ignore this line and will go to next line. Save this one. Okay. Now once I will run this one again, right? So that will ignore this error and will get back to me the string value. That's it. Okay. So the hash we are using to put a comment here, right? So again, like these are the basics we have. Okay, so some variable we have done, right? So what are the variables, the variable rules we have done? Okay, the operators we have done. Okay, these operators we have done, what kind of operator we can use. Now in the next class, in next session, we'll discuss more into these things, how we can use other operators, right? How we can write other programs. Okay, so those things we'll discuss.